Hi everybody, this is Matthew Poes with Poes Acoustics, and I'm answering questions. So this is from Rami Karen, and he said, first question, great video again, couple of questions. How are Perlisten S5 in-wall speakers compared to S7? Does the pricing difference justify the sound quality difference? So to answer that one, the sound quality, as far as I'm concerned, is basically the same between the two. The S7i has beamforming over a wider bandwidth, which is going to reduce the amount of vertical reflections down to around 100 hertz. So you're going to get reduction in that amount of reflection down to 100 hertz, whereas the R5 is not quite as good. There's some off-axis lobing issues, some errors you might call it, with the R5, the S5 that the S7 doesn't have because of that extra set of woofers, so that could improve the sound quality a little bit. And then it has higher output. So by having the extra set of woofers, the whole system can be made more sensitive. The sensitivity limitation in the Perlisten speakers is not the tweeter, it's actually the woofers. So the tweeter is padded down even in the S7 by quite a bit. Like if you added a whole nother set of, you'd actually have to add a lot more to make a big difference. If you doubled the number of woofers in the S7, you could probably get a good solid 3 or 4 dB of extra output from the speaker over what it is right now. But like sound quality wise, in a more general sort of generic sense of that term, I think if you sat down a couple of people and you had them listen to the S5s and the S7s, I don't think the average person would notice a huge difference between them. It would be pretty small. If you really cranked it, especially in bigger rooms, absolutely you're going to hear that difference in dynamic range. I think that somebody who has a well-trained ear and really knows neutral sound and spent good time with both of them, yeah, they're probably going to notice the improvement in the S7s. So I hope that answers that question. All right, then the second question was, are there any other in-wall speakers that you recommend other than the Perlistens? So there's actually a bunch of other speakers that I think are good in-wall speakers for the money. Keep in mind, I do think that the Perlistens are the best in-wall speakers that I've come across in that price point. I think that Kef has very, very good in-wall speakers. I think that the reference series and the RR series are both really good for the money. I don't think that the RR series are even in the ballpark of the Perlistens, but they're a different price point. So I like those because they're cheaper. The reference series actually is about the same price as the Perlistens. I still personally favor the Perlistens, but I really like the Kefs and would happily use them. I'd even happily live with them. And so I recommend them for people where either overall as a system we need to, like maybe we want a really good front stage, but they want to kind of keep costs down elsewhere. With Perlisten, it's harder to do that. With Kef, I can go to a lower end series that still timbre matches pretty well, including in the ceiling, and get pretty good sound out of it. So that's one reason to do that. The other is some people just don't like the sound of the Perlistens for one reason or another and may prefer the sound of the Kefs. And so that's a brand I recommend. And then there's also Theory Audio. So I don't consider them to be equivalent, and I definitely don't consider them better. I've heard people say that. They don't play as loud, and I don't find that you can push them as hard as you can push the Perlistens, but they are a very neutral speaker, and they're well engineered and well made. So for the money, and they're actually very cheap. I think they're like $1,200 for just the speaker. It's about as good as it gets for $1,200. Like I just don't know of another speaker that I would consider to be better than that for $1,200. Some people say where they get you is the amplifier, but when you consider it as a system, the amplifier isn't that bad. Because you wouldn't buy the amplifier for one speaker, you would buy the amplifier for a whole surround system. And so if you get into like a 5.1 system, it's really not all that expensive. So I think that's a good speaker as well. And I've actually done now at least half a dozen projects with the Theory Audio speakers and really found them to be decent. Outside of that, no, there's not a lot of in-wall speakers I've used that I think are the equivalent and would recommend. There are some stuff that's not like bad. For the same money, I would just go with probably one of those three. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that was helpful. If you liked the video and you liked my answer, like the video. If you didn't like it, please like it anyway. Subscribe to the channel, pass it around to friends. Let's get more people watching these videos. Oh, I should mention, probably we're going to be starting to do some more videos with guests. So I've been saying this for a little while now, and we're starting to put in place the infrastructure to do that. So once I get that all settled, I'll start getting some guests scheduled. And it'll be typical Matt Poes guests. So these are not going to be like just friends that I decided to have come on. They're going to be PhDs and top acousticians and things like that who have wanted to come on the channel in the past, and we're going to talk about technical topics in ways that I think are interesting and answer questions and hopefully get more good information out there. My goal is always to try to get information out there that you can't get elsewhere, but keep it approachable. So like I have let's say a PhD coming on who's one of my friends is really good at console modeling, and he can share a lot of great information on how we model speaker systems, room acoustics, you name it, right? Now, he could go really in depth and we could get really into what he does, and it would be over the heads of most of the people watching this to the point that it wouldn't be helpful. My goal is always to keep it approachable, to have those people come on, but the conversation presents information in a way that the vast majority of people could actually use it, and it's not too theoretical and too focused on stuff where you've got to have a background in this to really get it. And let's be honest, like even a lot of experts don't always get, like I work with a lot of people that are top of the industry that don't really get certain technical topics, myself included. I mean, I remember talking one time to Dr. Geddes one time about how, that was a lot of times. I was talking to Dr. Geddes about how reflections worked inside of a waveguide, and we were getting into different areas where you have problems in the response related to the compression driver, the path the sound takes through the compression driver, the role the phase plug plays in that, how it moves through the waveguide at the throat, and then out through the mouth. And he started getting into some stuff related to how it can be modeled using a certain kind of vector. And it was like way over my head. Like he started describing it and I'm like, I don't understand how this, what felt like an arcane mathematical approach could apply to this. I was totally lost. And I kept thinking to myself, I know he gets it. I'm sure he's 100% right in what he's saying. But like, if I can't get this, I am sure most of the people who need to know this also probably can't get this, which is always too bad when that happens. But I want to make sure that the conversations we have don't go down those rabbit holes and remain understandable. So if I don't get it, I'm probably going to raise it so that we make sure you guys get it too. All right, well, I hope that was good. Keep watching. I got more comments.